Hello, beautiful soul family and Recover and Rise. Happy Wednesday. Very excited to be back here with you for another weekly live. And today, Julie and I are going to be coming on and talking a little bit about how the distraction patterns that we hold really impact our ability to be living our full, ultimate divine legacy. So if you are excited to learn a little bit more about what exactly distraction patterns are and how they're impacting you and what you can see happening in your life when you have greater awareness around them and also have the tools to be able to understand exactly what they are trying to bring into your awareness so that you can create change around it and start living into your legacy more. So if you are here live, say hello. Hi, Justin. I see you on here. Hello. If you are here in the comments, say hello so we know you're here. Put live in the comments. If you're catching the replay, put replay. If you're catching this on the podcast or YouTube, hello and welcome. And we would love to have you inside the community when we are doing these videos live so you can engage with us here in the community and ask any questions. So if you want to join us, you can join the link below and join into the group. So we are going to jump right into this topic today about the distraction patterns and what exactly they are and how they impact the legacy that we can see ourselves living here in this present moment. Hi, Julia.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Awesome. So amazing. So the distraction patterns. Who here knows what the heck distraction patterns are? When Julia and I talk about distraction patterns, are you aware of what your distraction patterns are or what even distraction patterns are? Because I know when I first got into this work, I was like, I don't even know what that means. Basically, my whole life was a distraction. My whole life that I was living was basically a distraction. I remember going through Recover and Rise the very first time when we did the exercise of writing the stuff down. And I was just writing shit down and I'm like, oh dear God. I'm running for myself so hard right now. I'm like, wow, I have a lot of work to do.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. Well, I can share my story briefly about this, and then maybe Laura, you want to share your story as well, because I think everyone struggles with them.
Yeah.
You know, I was at my chiropractor yesterday telling him about the work that I do, and he kind of was like, yeah, I think that for me, food is my distraction, because every time I have a moment to myself, I'm eating, right? And so, you know, looking at myself, back in the day when I was really in like full throes of my addiction, I was binge eating at least 2 or 3 times a day, you know, sometimes to the point of making myself vomit, right? Later, when I found some of those spiritual tools and I started taking an honest inventory of my life, I found that working was also a distraction pattern for me. And the reason that I knew that was because my body was giving me all these signals to slow down. It was like I had back pain. You know, I didn't want to get off my bed in the morning with those depressive thoughts. And still, I was like addicted to work. I needed to get up in the morning and prove something of myself and really just go at it. And the risk of that, I felt for me, was just never having a moment to myself and never really getting to know myself in those really deep ways, and constantly doing for other people, for places and things, and for those accolades, right? And running from this place of I need approval, I need approval, I need approval. And when we do that, it's just like it's only one way of life, right? It's like we miss the orgasmic way of life because we're caught in these cycles. And the more that I talk to people, entrepreneurs, healers, coaches, people who are still tapped into this work, who are in service with each other, we're not immune to those things, you know. Sometimes they just transfer over to things like social media, or, you know, maybe it's like watching excessive Netflix or TV, or maybe if we're making good money or we're not making good money, we're still spending the money, right? And we're getting these like momentary highs from certain things. And what we learn in Recover and Rise is that these distraction patterns, actually what's underneath them are our core needs. For example, I know a lot of people who scroll on social media, what they're receiving is that sense of love or connection from the phone. And that often can happen when we're feeling really lonely, when we haven't had that face to face or that body to body community interaction during the day. So, you know, so much can come out of these sessions. So much can come from really taking good inventory of our lives and really discovering our core needs and what our bodies are saying to us. I wrote an email yesterday about our authentic voice. At the end of the day, Laura and I can talk here for hours and hours and hours, right? But the most important thing that I hope everyone is taking away is that we are in a time where our body's voice could not be more important. Your own authentic voice could not be more important. Your own antennas as to what is right for you, I can't tell you that. No one else can tell you that. And so learning how to access the body's voice, learning how to tap into your own voice, your soul's voice, your intuitive voice is more important. We're being told by so many people to go in this direction, go in this direction. Social media, this, TV, this, the pandemic, this. So much is happening around us. And I guarantee you that you know what's best for you, and only you know what's best for you. If we could learn how to tap into that soul voice, and the distraction patterns really keep us from that soul voice. That's really the bottom line.
For sure. Yeah. I remember like when like how I was sharing that time when I first started going through Recover and Rise. And I had so many. I would like go to weed and I would smoke weed to just numb, or I would meditate sometimes for hours. You know, I shared that on the live that I did with Carrie the other day, and she had shared as well that that was something that she did as well. And she didn't even recognize that that was this place of escape, right? Because sometimes we can, and I know I've always been somebody who's been very creative. So I would almost like live a lot more in my fantasy mind and create scenarios and all of these amazing things, which would bring the good feels into my body. But it was like I was living in a fantasy land because I wasn't actually able to create what was happening in my mind in real life. And it's interesting because with that, it was all because I was lacking the actual confidence in my human self, we say, to be able to actually take the actions required to create the big vision that I had in my mind when it came to the loving relationships I knew were possible, or my business dreams, my business goals, my creative passions, like all of these things. It was all because I didn't understand the actual needs that I had within. And it's interesting. I love how you mentioned about those core needs. And a lot of the time we'll go out, like when we're say going to social media, it's because we are lacking connection or this loneliness. And for myself, when I was recognizing that I would be going to all of these things, it was a big awareness for me, recognizing that a lot of the reason that I felt lonely or disconnected was because of my own thoughts in my own head that were constantly putting me in this loop of negativity based off of a story that I picked up from my childhood. And I know I shared this with Julia just recently, like just this morning, how there's this one sentence that my dad always used to say. And guys, this was so innocent on my dad's part. So there's no blame or anything, but just awareness around how what happens in our childhood and what happens in our past, it does actually like impact us on a deep core level. Was he would always used to say, like, what's wrong with you? And he would even joke about it. Like, he'd be like, what's wrong with you? You know, and he would joke about it. But to me as a child, I literally took that as fact, right? Because kids don't know the difference of how to actually determine what is real and what is not. They are taking everything to like truth. And then once we start putting meaning to those words, then it's like it installs that into us. And so I had this belief that there was something wrong with me. And with that, it didn't matter what I did. I was looking through life from that lens. So when it came to my relationships, when it came to my career, when it came to all of these things in my outside world, I was always bankrupt within because I was running off of this main operating system of lack and never feeling good enough. And it wasn't until I started understanding this and I was able to actually have the tools to be able to start shifting these beliefs that I am good enough. And it's still something that I am constantly working on. I can feel when that belief is running in my body, because I can feel it in my body. My body feels a lot heavier than it normally does. And now I have the tools to be able to clear it so that I can get back to that place of being like, no, I do believe in myself and I see what I'm doing. And I know why I'm doing it and I can do it. But we are not immune to all of these things that are happening within our actual human vessel that is helping us to create what we want to create. And so that was huge for me to be able to understand that, because we can, like, yes, there's lots of stuff in the outside world that is happening that impacts us, but a lot of it is actually the systems that we're running on the internal pieces that we need to shift in order to then tweak and refine what we're doing so that we can create a different outcome, right? So we continue doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's the definition of insanity, right? And how many times are we just living in these distraction patterns, jumping from thing to thing? Like for me, I was jumping from the weed to the meditation to people to men to all of these things, without even understanding that it was really all that I needed was to learn how to speak to myself nicer and to be able to shift that internal dialogue that I was having. And then as soon as that started happening, it was like the cup was then filled. And then I could then go back into those exact same things. Like some of the things I shifted. I don't smoke weed anymore. And there's certain things I shifted. I still meditate, but I do it in a way that is aligned. I still have relationships with men, right? But it's a different energy because it's coming from that full cup, and then it's then able to fill out into other things. So it was so crazy to me to be able to understand that shift and how that has impacted me. But it all came down to that very first step of the awareness of what the heck were the distraction patterns, so that I could start digging deeper under those layers to understand like what it was that was happening underneath the surface. And it's different for absolutely everybody. So like Julia said, like we can't tell you what's happening underneath the surface. That's where the whole journey of self-exploration gets to come in, where it gets to be a fun journey of being like, oh, like what is that under the surface? Like let's find that out, because when you clear it and you pop it and you shift, you're like, whoo, let's freaking go. And it's such like a liberating process.
I agree, Laura. Oh my goodness. And Laura said something really cool. I was just trying to tag everyone, but it didn't work. Laura said something really cool to me this morning as well. And I think you said something around belief, because I imagine someone who, was listening to that word of like, what's wrong with you? Imagine having a dream or a vision on your heart that to you sounds a little bit like it could be crazy. You'd probably think that dream or vision was
Yeah.
also wrong, right? And so, I remember working through some of these things with Laura, and now seeing the importance of that belief and having a community of support around you to help lift you up into the belief. And I need that too. I wrote down earlier today, it's okay to ask for that support. It's okay to welcome celebration into your life from a community of people. It's okay to, you know, ask for help with certain things, and to welcome that community of support, because that community, those people holding your hand, are going to be the ones that help anchor your beliefs so strongly in yourself. Because guess what? The world is going to question us. The world is going to throw darts at us, and the world is going to pull us into those distractions, right? And so that's why having that belief so strong and clearing those limiting beliefs of the what's wrong with you, the am I good enough, the fears, the for me it was a lot of the resentments, and clearing those beliefs is so important to actually bring your vision to life, because then we have more space for the belief of the actual thing and actually putting the steps into it.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but if anyone's following so far, just put a thumbs up in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just I can't emphasize it
Yeah.
enough.
And it's amazing too, right? Because we believe in each other a lot of the time more than we actually believe in ourselves. So imagine now when you can have multiple other people believing in your vision as you are on that journey to believing in it yourself. And somebody said that to me. I don't even remember who it was, but they were like, borrow my belief until you believe it yourself. And then you can then go and ripple that out to other people. And it's so powerful because we really can borrow that belief. And I remember sitting back a lot and just watching people And just kind of being one of those people that just sit back in the silence and watch and just like really admire and all things. And I lacked the belief that it was possible for me. And it wasn't until I actually reached out for help and said, like, I don't know what you're doing, but I want to be a part of it. I'm going to explore this. And that was when it opened up all of those big doorways, because it was like, then that was when I was able to receive the tools. Like, there's roadmaps. There are proven things that work to help humans really tap into their authentic gifts, into their like their unique essence of authenticity that you hold within you, unique to you, right? Like, there, it's not like some secret. It's different for everybody, but it doesn't matter which culture you go to or which like prophecies and all of these other different texts that go back thousands and thousands and thousands of years that all say that human consciousness, there's maps to it. And when you look at those maps, there's ways of raising your level of consciousness so that you can see the world through a different lens, and then therefore get to create from that lens. And it's not impossible for anybody. Like, we are all fully capable of it.
So if you know this is your time, if you know that you'd like to welcome that support into your life, just comment below with your favorite emoji, and either Laura or myself will absolutely reach out to you. We are 1 week away from the start of Recover and Rise, and we kick it off with our vision workshop. For anyone who'd like to join that, it's open to the public, and it is a 90-minute workshop on helping you clear away the limiting beliefs so you can make more space for the beliefs that are going to actually support you and bring you forward with your legacy and your dreams. So, yes.
Yeah, it's going to be so epic. It's going to be awesome. One other thing I'd like to mention as well is that this work, it's so different than doing mindset work. It is completely different ball game of doing mindset work. Like, you can continue doing mindset work in the conscious mind all you want, like learning education things with YouTube, watching these videos and doing all of these other things like podcasts and all this stuff. It's great for mental knowledge, but unless you have a balance between your 5 bodies, which maybe a lot of you don't even understand that you have five bodies, right? Your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, your energetic body, and your spiritual body. Unless you are balanced in all 5, you're never going to be able to access your higher levels of consciousness to be able to create what you want to create, right? And that's the biggest thing that I see, and even for my own thing, is that for so long I stayed in the physical and the mental, and I didn't expand myself into the emotional, the energetic, or the spiritual side. And that's, as soon as I accessed those 3, that's when my life really started taking off, because I was so into the mental piece that I knew so much information. We have information everywhere now. Like, it's information overload, right? But the biggest thing is like in the energetic, the emotional, the spiritual, that's like the processing. Like, you think of like a computer, when there's too much information there, it gets bogged up and it works really slowly. Like, my computer right now is running like a piece of shit, and I think I need to clear out some space. That's what happens when we are really only focusing on the physical and the mental space, is that it's like the processing doesn't get to happen. There's stuck, trapped stuff, like Julia shares about, like things getting trapped in the body. And then the processing just gets bogged down. And then we're wondering why we're exhausted. We're wondering why we're not able to achieve what we want to achieve, when really it's just, you have to just unlock those other 3 things. And then once that energy starts flowing, you start processing that stuff, you start opening up and tapping into like the most amazing things. And it's incredible. So that is like the biggest difference between maybe what you've done before versus what this is. And I know Justin just shared with me the other day that he's received more support in the last 6 weeks and more value than he did in therapy his whole time in therapy, right? And that's the difference, is because you're really tapping into the whole realm of what's possible there as a human. It's incredible what happens when you start accessing those pieces.
I love hearing this. I've heard that quite a lot as well, because this work is very different. It's the embodiment work. Oh, he commented way
Yeah,
more.
yeah, it's
Yes,
epic.
yes, it's very different than, and I think that, if traditional therapy is honest with themselves, that it only goes so far.
It does.
It only goes so far. We need deeper forms of healing, deeper forms of looking at our trauma, deeper forms of overcoming those limiting beliefs. And these somatic tools are really what's going to help open up those pathways in the body for greater forms of love and abundance and receiving. So, so excited. If you're excited for the workshop, drop your favorite emoji in the chat.
Yes, and we'll put the link down below too
Other than a thumbs,
to join.
yes, we will post the link down below to join. It's only $50 plus tax. And we'd love to see as many of you there as possible. Bring your vision, bring your intention, bring your workshop. I ran this workshop a couple years ago, I mentioned in one of my posts, and someone had their big business idea in that workshop, and it's been 2 years later, and he created, not only did he create his business, but they've earned over 500,000 in revenue. He told me he was approaching investors in the Middle East to franchise it out east. So those are big things, and anything is possible for you as well. So, you know, post your emoji in the chat. Let us know if you're going to be there. And we love you all. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Laura.
Grateful. Yay. Okay. Bye. Thanks so much for being on here, Julia. Thanks, Justin, for being live with us. Everybody catching the recording. We love you.
Bye, everyone. Love you.
Chat soon. Bye.